This is Bill Cassidy, Senior Editor of the Journal of Commerce, and I'm here with Jack Wells, who is the Chief Economist at the Department of Transportation. We're both at the SMC3 Connections 2013 conference in Connecticut this week, talking about the National Freight Strategy Plan that MAP 21, last year's highway bill, ordered DOT to create. And Jack, thanks for spending some time.
Happy to be here.
Talking about this. Could you give us a bit of background on where the freight plan stands today and what it incorporates?
Right. Well, the freight plan is due to be issued by the department by September of 2015. Part of the plan is a report on measures of conditions and performance. So that report on conditions and performance actually has to come out next year in 2014. So right now we're focused particularly on developing those measures of conditions and performance that will be part of the strategic plan. But we're also beginning to do planning on what the elements of the strategic plan will be. We have the first meeting next week of our National Freight Advisory Committee, and one of the questions that we will be asking them is what would be the most useful elements of a national freight strategic plan? What kinds of information do shippers and policymakers need to help them use the freight system most efficiently? And also for the parties that will be providing those data, the carriers and the infrastructure owners, what kinds of data are feasible and practicable for them to produce? And we will, as we develop a clear outline of the elements of the strategic plan, we'll be putting together a plan for producing the plan over the next 2 years and issuing it in 2015.
Jack, several states have already launched either their own freight plans or they're in the process of developing them. What type of activity have you seen, and what are some of the practical lessons that can be learned from the states?
That's right, Bill. A lot of the states, about 20 states, have already produced state freight plans, and we are encouraging other states to do more state freight planning like that. One of the things that we've found in a lot of the state freight plans is that those plans are embedded in a clear economic analysis of the key industries for those states and what are the supply chains that support those industries and what kind of freight infrastructure is needed to make those supply chains work efficiently. So we're hoping to do something similar in the National Freight Strategic Plan to look at how the nation's economy depends upon freight transportation, what are the key elements of the transportation system that support the economy, particularly for exports. We want to support the President's National Export Initiative. Right now we're doing research, for example, on what parts of the freight transportation system are particularly important for export industries. And so we found that those state freight plans have provided us with a number of good ideas for elements that we want to include in the National Freight Strategic Plan.
You know, at this point too, you have an advisory committee, a freight advisory committee, which draws, I believe, 47 representatives.
That's right.
Different interests.
Right.
Just beginning to get together to meet, I believe, next week.
That's right.
What do you hope to gain from this committee? How is it different from other committees that we've seen in the past?
Right. Well, this will be an ongoing committee. We expect this committee to be available to us to advise us for a number of years. And initially, we're focusing on the requirements of MAP 21, the development of the National Freight Strategic Plan, the development of the report on measures of condition and performance, and asking the committee to help us identify what measures of condition and performance would be most useful, what would be the most useful elements of a National Freight Strategic Plan, how granular the National Freight Strategic Plan should be. Should it include details on individual projects and individual corridors, or should it be a more high-level plan that produces a broader vision for the development of the national freight system? But we expect that committee to continue to advise us on other freight issues over years to come. After we have largely completed the implementation of the provisions of MAP 21, we'll have other freight issues coming up, and we expect the advisory committee to advise us on those issues as well.
You know, in terms of looking at transportation infrastructure. You know, in the past, we've been very mode-oriented in Washington. How multimodal is this plan going to be, and what does that mean to you?
Right. Well, the language in the statute has a certain focus on highway infrastructure, but we certainly plan to implement these provisions in a multimodal way. So we expect the plan will cover all of the modes of freight transportation: rail, water, ports, waterways, as well as highways. And we will be looking at the infrastructure investment requirements across the full range of ports. We'll be developing measures of condition and performance for the full range of freight modes of transportation. So it's going to be a very multimodal plan. We found in our work, for example, on the Tiger Grant program that was part of the Recovery Act, that there are lots of good opportunities for investments in other modes of transportation besides highways, and we need to take advantage of those low-hanging fruit opportunities.
And one issue that came up this morning was funding for infrastructure projects of all types. Will this plan or this committee make recommendations regarding how projects could be funded, or is that a job for Congress or another group?
I think that's probably a job for Congress and another group. Certainly within the executive branch, funding decisions are largely the responsibility of the White House and the Treasury Department, and we certainly look to the Congress to take responsibility for identifying the appropriate funding responsibilities. The President several times has said that he wants to work with the Congress in a bipartisan fashion to develop new funding sources. So we recognize the need for additional revenues, but we want to work with the Congress largely through the White House and the Treasury Department to develop those new options.
And Jack, finally, what can our audience, the shippers, carriers, logistics providers who are watching this video, what can they do to contribute to the process? How can they contact DOT and become involved?
Right. Well, we recognize the importance of involving a wide range of stakeholders in developing both the National Freight Strategic Plan and the measures of condition and performance. So we encourage all stakeholders in the transportation system, whether they're shippers, carriers, infrastructure owners, to contact us with their ideas on what measures of condition and performance would be most useful, what measures are feasible and practicable, what the appropriate elements of a National Freight Strategic Plan would be. We have a general email address, freight@dot.gov, that people can use to send in ideas on these topics, or people can contact me directly at jack.wells@dot.gov to provide their ideas on how we should implement these freight provisions in MAP 21.
Jack, I think that's a great invitation, and I hope plenty of people take you up on it.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.